What if pain isn't the problem, but actually the pathway back to you? You're listening to The Leadership Wound, From Pain to Permission. I'm Amanda Rohr, your host and founder of Authentically You, coaching for embodied spiritual living and leading. This is where we get honest about the real cost of leadership, the burnout, the pretending, the rejection, and the return to your authentic self. Because this isn't about performance, it's about permission. Welcome to the leader you've always been.
There's a moment in every uncertain season when your eyes open and you realize something. Clarity isn't coming on your timeline. And certainty, well, it's just not guaranteed. And comfort isn't required, but you still have a choice. You can stay frozen, waiting until you feel, quote unquote, ready. Or you can learn to take the next faithful step, right into the middle of the unknown. Welcome back to The Leadership Wound. This is the place where we talk about the hidden cost of leadership and how healing and wholeness meet us on the path from pain to permission. I'm Amanda Rohr, coach, teacher, founder of Authentically You, coaching for embodied spiritual living and leading. And I work with leaders and entrepreneurs who are tired of performing their way through life and are ready to lead from a place that's grounded, honest, and true. This is the final episode in our 4-part series on capacity for uncertainty. And if you've been tracking with me, you already know where we've come and where we're going. Episode 1 was why capacity for uncertainty might be one of the most important things that you learn in 2026. Episode 2 started us with regulation, learning to return to safety in the body through the rhythm of pause, return, and embody. And in episode 3, we talked about reframing. What is the story that we are telling ourselves? Learning to challenge the meaning-making mind and choose a truer story in the middle of uncertainty. And today we wrap up with episode 4, which is responsive obedience or an aligned action. What does it look like to take the next faithful step, even when you cannot see the whole plan? And I want to add something personal right here at the start, because I'm learning this in real time. God is calling me to be a practitioner of what I am teaching. When we take the next faithful step, it doesn't mean uncertainty disappears. It doesn't mean we suddenly feel calm or confident, and it doesn't mean that we feel okay. Sometimes the step happens while our stomach is still tight and in knots. Sometimes the step happens when our mind is still asking questions because we haven't received answers. And sometimes the next faithful step happens while you're still in the process. And this is the reframe I'm living in my present life right now. It doesn't mean you have to feel okay to be okay. It means obedience can happen in the presence of uncertainty. Obedience and aligned action can happen in the presence of, yes, uncertainty. Faith doesn't require a lack of faith. It requires a willingness to move with God anyway. Responsive obedience is not an impulsive action. It's not rushing to relieve the discomfort. And it's not doing something just so you don't have to feel the uncertainty. Responsive obedience is aligned action, aligned with your true self. It is the ability to listen, to discern, and to respond without demanding guarantees. It's what happens when you stop asking, how do I make myself feel safe? And you start asking, what is the next faithful thing that will lead me into safety? And that's why it's responsive, because it isn't driven by panic. It's driven by the present moment. It isn't driven by proving, it's driven by conviction. And it isn't driven by performance. Rather, it's driven by a true relationship between you and God and you and others. Let's go into the why again, because this isn't just spiritual talk or talk about our feelings. One of the most important ways that the brain learns safety is through experience. This is neurological, not through thinking. Your nervous system updates when you take a step and you discover something new. Wow, I didn't die when I did that. Or, oh my goodness, I can handle this. Or, in the midst of all of it, God met me there. This is why avoidance strengthens anxiety. It's kind of counterintuitive because every time you avoid the step, your brain learns that thing is dangerous. But every time you take a faithful step forward, even a small one, your brain learns, I can tolerate uncertainty and still remain safe. That's capacity. That's what we're trying to build within ourselves. And this is why so many leaders stay stuck. They're waiting to feel ready before they move, rather than taking imperfect action. But readiness is often the fruit of movement, not stagnation. Sometimes you don't feel ready until you've taken the next step. Let me say it plainly. A lot of leaders have unknowingly made certainty a prerequisite for obedience. We say things like, once I'm sure, then I'll act. Or, once I have more clarity, I'll make my decision. Or, once the timing feels perfect, I'll move forward. Once I know it will work, I'll go all in. But that's not faith. That's control of the situation. That's control of people. And I don't say that with judgment because I've done it too. But certainty is a moving target. Change is inevitable. And if you make certainty the conditional requirement for your next step, you will stay stuck in the waiting room of your life forever. Responsive obedience is the choice to move forward without requiring certainty to accompany you. Here's what I want to anchor in today. God doesn't just send you a vision. He doesn't just download the vision and then let you go. He sends you himself. His very presence is the gift. And this is what we talked about in episode 2 when we named missional spirituality. Mission with the God who sent you on mission. So responsive obedience isn't you trying to get it all right, trying to learn it all, trying to have certainty before you take the next step. Rather, it's you staying connected to the source and power and author of the vision. It's you saying, I'm not ahead of you, God. I'm not behind you. I'm with you in the midst of it. And that means the question shifts from, what's the entire plan, God? Just download every detail, to, what's the next faithful step for me today? The Lord's Prayer says, Lord, give me my daily bread. My daily bread, not my weekly, not my monthly, not my yearly bread, but just give me what I need today. The difference between urgency and obedience is crucial because urgency and obedience can look similar externally. Both involve action, but internally, they come from completely different places. Urgency says, I need relief and I need it now. It says, I need control. I need this to be resolved now so I can feel better and my nervous system knows what to do. That's what urgency says when we demand from God and others to see everything clearly. But obedience says, I'm present here in the moment. I'm not before you. I'm not behind you. I'm listening. I'm willing. I'm silently waiting. And I'm moving in alignment with each step that you show me. So here's a diagnostic question. Does this step come from panic or from peace? If you want to know if you're moving forward in urgency and pressure and performance, or you're moving forward in obedience, ask that diagnostic question. Does this step come from panic or does it come from peace? Even if you don't feel peaceful, you can still sense that it comes from a groundedness, a truthfulness. And if you're not sure, this is why the first two episodes matter so much. You need to be able to pause, stop, and reframe the old stories that your brain has been telling you so you can respond in obedience rather than the pressure and performance of urgency. So, what does this actually look like in real life? It looks like narrowing your focus. Because uncertainty makes your mind try to solve the whole future, the whole picture, all the details. We've all been there. But responsive obedience brings us back to today, back to the present. And it asks one simple question, one embodied action. What is the next faithful step? Not 10 steps ahead, not the full blueprint, as I've been saying, not a guarantee, just one step. And this is where I want to give you language that you can actually use as you're processing in real time. God, I don't need the whole plan. I just need the next faithful step. And sometimes that next faithful step is an action step. Sometimes it's like just make the call or send the email, have the conversation, or submit the paperwork that needs to be done. Maybe it's just write down your thoughts and proposal of this vision that's been bubbling up, or ask for help, set a boundary, or take a risk. But sometimes the next faithful step is an internal step. It could be, I just need to surrender and release the timeline of what I've been putting God to. Maybe it's forgive the person or stop rehearsing the worst case scenarios in your head and think about a different story. Maybe it's take a nap, take a Sabbath. Maybe it's choose humility instead of fighting and conflict. Or maybe it's just wait in silence instead of allowing your brain to spiral. Because obedience isn't only about doing, it's about becoming. You don't have to feel okay to be okay. Now, I want to come back to what I said at the beginning because this is one of the biggest lessons I'm learning personally right now. When we talk about embodiment, embodying the truth of what we know, so it's not just cerebral or intellectual, but it's actually a lived practice and rhythm. When we talk about this responsive obedience, it doesn't mean that uncertainty goes away. This is such a crucial point because sometimes we just think we can think our way to certainty. But rather, it means you take the step in the midst of it. You can still feel tender. You can still feel stretched. You can still feel a little shaky. It's okay. This is one of the most freeing truths for leaders. You can be in the process and still be faithful. And you can be unsure, unclear, and still take obedient steps forward. And you can be uncomfortable and still be aligned with your truth. Obedience is not the absence of fear or uncertainty. It's actually movement with God in the presence of all of that. And this is inner work. It's becoming the person who can carry the vision that God has given you. So let's tie this all back to what we've been saying all throughout the series. And that is so many leaders, so much teaching focuses on strategy, structure, getting people on board, how to do the execution right, how will we grow, what are the outcomes? And those things are definitely important and they matter. But if you don't do the inner work as a leader, the vision will come and you will not be ready to carry it well. Because vision requires a container. It's not just operational, the things that you do, it's internal, it's capacity, it's character. It's emotional resilience. It's a steady identity that does not shift. It's healthy boundaries. It's a regulated nervous system, a renewed mind. A leader who can hold weight without collapsing or controlling outcomes or burning out is a leader who is able to carry a vision that God has given them. So, responsive obedience, it's not just about taking steps. It's about becoming a leader who can take steps without losing themselves. And this is why coaching matters so much, because coaching isn't just about the goals you want to accomplish. It's about your own internal formation. Who are you becoming in the process? It's about building the internal container that can carry what God gives us. Here's a simple, practical thing that you can do this week. It's a faithful step filter. When you feel stuck, when you feel overwhelmed, when you are unsure. And by the way, if you're a leader, you will feel all of these things. You're human and you are normal. So you can ask yourself, what is the next faithful step? I've paused, I've regulated, I am ready to embody. What is the next faithful step? Not the next impressive step, not the next anxiety-filled step, but the faithful one, the one that feels true to what God is calling me to. And the next question is this step mine to take today? Or am I trying to carry someone else's step? Or am I trying to carry something that's more geared towards tomorrow? Thirdly, does this step honor God? Does it honor my whole self as a holistic being? And does it honor the people that I lead? This is big because sometimes what looks like obedience is actually self-abandonment or self-sabotage. God does not require you to betray your body, your limits, and your humanity. And it never takes someone else's autonomy away from them. Lastly, what would it look like to take this step slowly and steadily, rather than from a position of urgency and performance? Because faith is not frantic. And then once God gives you the next faithful step, you do it one step at a time. As we close, I want to ask you this. Where have you been waiting for certainty before you decide to move forward? And what are you calling discernment that is actually fear-based delay? And what would it look like to walk with God daily rather than running ahead of where He is? Because this is what I want to leave you with at the end of the series. Capacity for uncertainty isn't built by one big, brave moment. Instead, it's built by hundreds of small choices to be present with the reality of where you are and where God is. It's built by small choices along the way, to pause, to return, to reframe, and then to respond to the truth that you know. Until next time, lead like you. If you've been sensing you're ready for the next step, more clarity, more living and leading with peace and freedom, then start here. Download your free Authentic Leadership Starter Bundle at authenticleadershipcollective.com, including 10 traps that keep leaders stuck, an 8-minute morning meditation to reconnect with God, plus practical tools to realign with your true self. And if you want support turning this into real lived change so you can live and lead like you, book a free call with me so you can begin today living and leading authentically.